All right, guys, welcome to Wide Awake News Radio. My name is Charlie McGrath. It is the 5th day of December, Wednesday. We have a great 2-hour program lined up for you tonight. I want to welcome, of course, all the Rinse Radio listeners, and once again, the Oracle Broadcasting listeners as well, since we do now broadcast live on both networks. And joining me here in just a minute is one of the founders of the Oracle Broadcasting Network, Doug Owen, also founder of Blacklisted News.com. So we're going to talk with Doug. We're going to get updated on the current events of the day, and it's always a good time when Doug's here because he's freaking hilarious. But what I want to start off with is a little piece of information that I was waiting to hit, and sure enough, it did. I did an RT interview today, and the topic was Syria. Now, the topic was Syria, but the violence spreading from Syria into Lebanon. And I tried to pivot there a little bit and take it into a little broader spectrum of this so-called freedom fighter effort inside of Syria. But I was slapped back into the field of play real quickly by the news presenter because they wanted to keep it on the topic of Syria and Lebanon. So I want to elaborate on this a little bit. And you know what? I instead of going on any kind of a rant here, I know if anybody's as informed on what's going on in that region of the world is Doug Owen, because I check his website every single day, and he has a lot of great information on there on these topics. So let's bring Doug on here now. Doug Owen, blacklistednews.com, Oracle Broadcasting Network. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Hey, Charlie. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate
it.
It's good to hear from you.
It's good to hear from you. It's good to have you back on the program. I was on yours here a little bit ago as a call-in. I was stalking around in the chat room, and I called in, and it was a good time. You have a great program. When can I hear your program over there? It's directly before mine, correct?
Yes, sir. It's 5 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern, weekdays.
That's right. You finished up with yours, and then you jumped over here and did mine, so I greatly appreciate you coming on here tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Look, on your site right now, I'm on your site right now, blacklistednews.com, and I see, let's see, the third story on there, Senate orders study on U.S. no-fly zone in Syria. Now, I'm holding a printout I did this morning. I posted on my website. Senate passes NDAA amendment on Syrian no-fly zone. I want to talk about this first and foremost because I was waiting for this moment. You know, I was waiting for the propaganda to get to the point that, you know, we had to put no-fly zone back into the lexicon. We had to get it back out there for people to be consuming this. And here it is. I mean, this is amazing to me. National Defense Authorization Act 2013. That's what we're talking about. You know, they felt it necessary. Now, of course, they're saying because they're worried about the weapons of mass destruction inside of Syria, but they felt it necessary to put this verbiage into the National Defense Authorization Act, that a study be launched to figure out how to provide a no-fly zone. What do you think of this?
I think it's a way to minimize the responsibility of the Senate and our other representatives in the Congress in saying, look, we looked at a study, we did all of these very, very collegiate things that needed to be done to make sure that we were looking out for the best interest. And it's a way to put off some of those decisions onto other experts, planners, and thinkers and other wonks. So it's a great way to kind of absolve yourself of the responsibility if things go wrong, if we have another situation like Libya. So many are saying, excuse me, that these are the exact same steps that the U.S. and, of course, NATO took towards going into Libya and putting boots on the ground. We know that's already happening. Now they're just creating this backstory and letting the American people in on the already ongoing plans. And so this and the study of the no-fly zone is also used as a way, I think, to start more rumors and put more international pressure on some of the other members of NATO, saying, "Look, we've already started moving towards this, so get ready."
Absolutely, and I I apologize for stepping away there. I don't know if you're watching the feed, Doug, but
Did you get some stuck in your throat? Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
And I swallowed some water to try to help it, and guess what? It did not.
Oh man, wrong pipe. Wrong pipe.
Wrong pipe. Okay, so yeah, no, I agree, and I think it's interesting because they're putting this legislation now. We would have to be absolutely naive not to believe that they've not war gamed this to death already. But I think they're just, excuse me, setting the stage for what we know is coming. It's about to happen.
Sure. Yeah. This is the way to kind of announce this, that this is something that we're looking at. The options are on the table. We had Benjamin Netanyahu. He wanted the red line with Iran, and the State Department, Hillary Clinton, she has a red line. So all of the propaganda about the chemical weapons and the potential for those to be used is going to be, I guess, the metric for whether or not we intervene in Syria. So,
and we will. That's no doubt.
And they're going to find chemical weapons. The question is, whose side are we on, and what's going to happen in the aftermath? I imagine that it wouldn't be too hard to find chemical weapons being dispersed by the evil Syrian government if the NATO benefactors and planners there wanted that to happen. And so it's very convenient. We've already seen some pretty sketchy things, like the shooting down of a Turkish military jet, bombings that have encroached into Israel itself, and that's only exacerbating the issue and bringing more tension. So now you have Turkey, which is a NATO ally and Israeli ally. They have moved peaceful Patriot missiles to the border. It's all peaceful. Defensive posturing is what they like to call this, and it's just a way to re-solidify the sovereignty of these nations, on and on and on. You know the script.
I know the script because it's been repeating over and over and over again, and it's amazing to me that that even RT wants to look at the microcosm. Look, there is no microcosm. We don't have to worry about Lebanon being drawn into this because it's going to happen. And it's the least of what we should be looking at. What we should really be looking at is who is doing this freedom fighting. For those on Justin TV that saw me have a choking attack there, I'm doing air quotes right now. You guys can see it. Who is behind these freedom fighters? These guys have massive amounts of munitions, massive amounts of equipment. Where's it coming from? If this was the first such event that has occurred in this region, we could say, wow, I mean, this is a real legitimate revolution, and these guys they mean business. They're all about freedom. But it isn't. I mean, this is just a replay of what we saw in Libya a year ago. We're going to get the same thing, and at the end of the day, we'll see Assad being drugged down the sidewalk and maybe stomped on. Maybe they'll behead him, but they'll put it on YouTube, and then people like Hillary Clinton, they'll jump around and celebrate it. I mean, this is what's going to happen in that country.
Well, unless something changes, I think that Russia will be the big X factor in all of this, because this is their largest military trading partner. They have a port in Tartus, and so they lose. And this is part of a Mediterranean Union, something that Sarkozy kind of spearheaded. But Brookings did a paper. You're probably familiar. I think it was a 2009. It was titled "Which Path to Persia?" and Persia being Iran. And there's several paths, but they all lead through Lebanon and Syria. And it's very strategic. A lot of pipelines are being built there, and the energy security of Europe kind of hangs in the balance with the Baku pipeline, the Leviathan gas and oil fields. So there's a lot of money, not to mention maybe potentially other scarce resources. But it's not oil that the empire is after, because Syria doesn't have any. So it becomes even more interesting when you look at how little at least seemingly, the New World Order, if you will, or the Western powers have to gain by overthrowing Assad. But we know that the government has now given them $20 million. They have surface-to-air missiles. The CIA is on the ground, and we have thousands of DIA now on their way. That's the Defense Intelligence Agency. Yeah,
and for those on Justin TV, you can see I'm pointing to. I mean, the question. Well, you know what? We'll get back to this on the backside of this break. The question on why is Syria important is it's kind of like real estate. It's all about location, where it's at. We're going to be back with Doug Owen of Blacklisted News, more Wide Awake News Radio, in just a few minutes, guys. Hang tight. All right, back to Wide Awake News Radio with Charlie McGrath and Doug Owen as our guest. Of course, Doug Owen is the founder of blacklistednews.com and one of the founders. Are you the original founder, or are you just one of the founders of the Oracle Broadcasting Network?
One of them. My partner, Lee Rogers, and a bunch of other guys, we built Oracle Broadcasting about 4 years ago. I guess kind of when at the same time that Jeff Rentz built his own radio network, and we did the same along with some others. And so it's kind of a collaborative effort, but I end up being kind of the go-to guy, if you will, for most of the stuff related to it.
Doug Owen, go-to guy.
Go-to guy. I wear many hats.
It's better than your old nickname.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I could go down the road of Syria and the Middle East some more, and I guess we can. I'm just going to kind of leave that up to you to talk about what you think is the most important stories of the day. I think it's fascinating, and I've had people on and we've talked a little bit about it. And I've been on a couple different programs where they've asked, predictions for the rest of this year, since we probably won't have you back on here until next year. But my take on how things are right now, especially after the election, and it's the answer has been consistently the same, which is I'm amazed. I'm amazed at how fast things are really have accelerated. How things have really accelerated since this election. What is your take? Go ahead.
Oh, well, I mean, just really quickly summating what's happening in Syria, it's just part of a larger plan for the region and energy security, which means also the controlling of that energy. And when it comes to Europe, Russia, China, they're all vying for Africa, and they're all vying for the Middle East. And so these are the little games that they play, and this is about reinvestment in a lot of forms and fashions. So there's a lot more just going on than just religious and fanatic and cultural revolutions. And many are Western guided. Many have our tax dollars in their pockets, and they're bringing new forms of democracy, which, if you look at Egypt, not working very well. I think one of the big stories is that you have a guy who's a 9/11 truther. Okay, you have Hosni Mubarak, who is, or excuse me, Morsi. Mubarak, he's gone. We got Morsi. Yeah, we have Mr. Morsi.
He's about to be gone too.
It's not looking good over there. So you have another political power vacuum. You have people back in the streets, and you have more media suppression. But that's not working too well. Bahrain, other places that have been hardliners and U.S. supported, are not doing very well to quell their own domestic populations. You have places like Saudi Arabia actually giving people cash money, checks, to keep
not
them
riot.
Not riot, which is nice. I mean, you would think that
maybe we could get in on some of that.
Well, yeah, I think the Occupy movement is doing that to a certain extent. If nothing else.
Wait a minute. Tell me about that a little bit. Well, I know we're going to shift gears, and that's why I love when Doug's on, because he brings stories that I haven't heard before. And I mean, is there a buyout going on in the Occupy movement?
Well, they're buying out debt. They are actually buying out. It's Operation Strike Debt, I think it is, or Occupy Strike. If you Google Strike Debt, you have the Occupy protesters are actually buying debt back from these agencies that have bought, invested in debt. So they're actually absolving people's debts. So you have that, and you have, well,
now I have heard of that. Go ahead.
I think I kind of misspoke there, saying that you have a situation where the government's paying off these people, but I think you really you find that in a lot of places, especially in California, where they've been pretty much pacified by what was it? There's this story. They're moving these people out. They're actually giving them cash and prizes to kind of move the homeless, the disgruntled, and other people in the Occupy protests. And some of these guys were actually being paid by unions to protest for them. I think it was a carpenters union. So they're already out there protesting, and this government-subsidized union is using them in their off time. So it's just kind of weird, some of the things that are happening there.
Well, that is weird. And the story where the Occupy movement was trying to acquire some of this debt, and I've seen that story. I've read on that a little bit. Here's the thing. There's so many people that are so frustrated in this country, and it's been building for quite a long time. I see this continuing most definitely through this fiscal cliff debacle, or this fiscal cliff charade that we're being treated to right now. And we're pretty close to a break, so I
remember my point. My point was that they were looking at absolving $1 trillion worth of student debt. That was it. That was the story I was looking for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to happen? I mean, look, there's going to come a point where
I think it has to happen.
Well, I think it could. I don't think it's going to happen under the current powers that be, unless they're, this is a last ditch effort to try to placate vast swaths of the population. But when I see Tim Geithner coming on television today talking about, I got no problem taking this country off the fiscal cliff. When I see these people coming out talking about, we have to repeal the debt ceiling, the Congress having the power to limit the debt of this nation. I really think that Doug, that we're close to the time that Greece was in about 4 years ago, when we started hearing a lot of talk about they had to reel it back in, then had to work on limiting social safety nets. And they had to increase taxes. This is the same talk we're hearing now from our so-called leadership. I think they're about to unleash the austerity machine on this country.
Oh, and absolutely.
That's great timing right there. and I made it through maybe 2 minutes there without choking there. So we're going to be back with Doug Owen of blacklistednews.com and Oracle Broadcasting Network and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes, guys. Hang tight. Doug Owen, blacklistednews.com is his website. He's our guest for this first hour. He's also one of the founders of the Oracle Broadcasting Network, which, of course, we are broadcasting live on, as well as Rinse Radio. Doug, talking about the fiscal cliff a little bit here, and we'll probably get into it a little bit more.
Good, because I want you to clear up some things for me. I'm not sure what the fiscal cliff really is, other than taxes, and at some point I'm going to be paying more money or not.
Well, let me put it. Let's make it real clear. You're going to be paying more money either way. I mean, so let's not get lost in the illusion that one of these solutions is going to benefit Doug Owen, because neither one of them are going to benefit you. And guys, if you're listening, next hour, Greg Manarino is going to be on for the second hour, and certainly we're going to get into a lot of the financial stuff there too. But basically, the fiscal cliff was brought about by government by crisis. We had the debt ceiling debate in 2011. And in order to bump up the debt ceiling one more time to get us past the 2012 election, they created the Super Congress, this Gang of 12, and
right.
Their job was to get spending under control, get revenues get revenues coming in, pay down the deficit, and if they couldn't do that, in order to raise the debt ceiling, they put in these automatic triggers. And I bet you the guys who are listening right now in the chat room, they're sick of hearing this because I talk about this all the time, but this automatic trigger event is what is the debt ceiling, what is the fiscal cliff. If they couldn't come up with a deal, which they didn't, then on January 1st, 2013, these automatic triggers would kick in. We would lose the Bush tax cuts. We would have some tax rates go back up. And this is the fiscal cliff. So what's going to happen is that automatic triggers will kick in. And this is a beautiful thing, right? This is a beautiful thing for these scumbag politicians in Washington, D.C., especially the long-term ones. In fact, one of the boys that was in the Super Congress, this Gang of 12, was Max Baucus. He was a senator from Montana, and he's not even in it anymore. He retired. So, they get this group of 12 congressmen and senators together that are statues in Washington, D.C. They cannot lose. They're so ingrained and entrenched that they would literally have to murder somebody to not be automatically reelected. They get these guys together. They raise the debt ceiling. Number one most important thing. This is 2011. The number one most important thing that needed to happen for the powers that be was get that debt ceiling raised. They did it. They put the automatic triggers in there, so if they couldn't come up with a solution, bam, these triggers would kick in. This is the fiscal cliff. We go off the cliff, tax rates go up, spending cuts automatically kick in, and the world comes to a grinding end. Now, and this is what we face coming into the next couple of weeks. But the truth be told, the whole debate is, Doug, I know you see these headlines coming out almost every day. It's all about getting rid now. See, they had all this drama and they had all these problems getting the debt ceiling raised in 2011 because it started to hit the front page. Politicians that maybe were not long-term lifers in D.C., people like Ron Paul, were talking about this insanity of keep raising the debt ceiling to infinity, and it became an issue. So this go around, they want to get rid of this issue. And that's why we see these headlines coming out now almost daily about how we have this necessity to get rid of the debt ceiling altogether and just turn over all the power of Congress to whoever, the Treasury Secretary, the President. This is right. I believe, the end goal. We're going to get rid of a little bit more freedom.
Well, they're trying to get rid of Senate confirmation so that, all these great things like we hear about Timothy Geithner not paying his taxes, $30,000, oops, oversight. We wouldn't have heard about that if it wasn't for the Senate confirmation. So now you don't have and they've already passed this. They're still doing the Senate confirmation hearings, though. So I think that's just kind of a little bit of a charade, but they don't have to. And so they're taking more and more power away. So Timothy Geithner saying, we should do away with this because it just brings about this fruitless debate. Right. I think it's more than that. It takes away the power for Congress to say no more, and puts that into the hands of the executive. Like so many other things, we're seeing a real consolidation of power and control in the executive, and that's just being handed over to the next in line. So we'll see who gets it next. But for the next 4 years, I think we're going to definitely see a stagnation in a lot of sectors economically, just because of all of the questions about healthcare, taxes. Most people aren't even able to wrap their minds around what this means and what the fiscal cliff is, number one, and how much it's going to cost them. I've heard estimates from $400 for the average American to $4,000. And Obama now has, have you heard about this? My 2K. He's got an initiative talking about your $2,000. So it's this awareness campaign about the fiscal cliff and the Bush tax cuts, which I just the fact that they would use My 2K, considering that Y2K was a huge mind op, is kind of telling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think what's more telling is what they're proposing. You have on the table now is the mortgage interest deduction, right? That's been put on the table. So they're going to. It's almost like the Republicans will sacrifice the middle class because if you're middle class, that's your number one deduction you have is your home mortgage interest, and for that they're going to let the Republicans slap. The Democrats slap a couple extra percentage points on the folks making whatever big time dollars, but. At the end of the day, all this debate, it's just like our election. It's all, it's all meaningless because we're not changing the monetary policy. We're not changing the corrupt collusion between Washington and Wall Street. We're not changing any of the apparatus that led to $16.3 trillion in sovereign debt. None of that's changing.
Not bringing back Glass-Steagall. They've been talking about it. I read it in Wall Street Journal. I think it was Tuesday. Not bringing that back.
Yeah. So, So we're gonna spend all these countless hours in the mainstream business media talking about the fiscal cliff and oh my God, it's the end of the world and it's meaningless. It's like the 2012 election. I don't care who you got, Romney, Obama. You're gonna get this exact same thing. The economy wasn't gonna go better one way or the other. Doug, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but a lot of people don't. But it's a given fact and.
Well, it depends on who's going to be subsidized, who's going to, not be taxed. It's good for somebody, but probably not you or I or most of the listeners out there that are going to be graced with this podcast and or broadcast.
That's right. Well, and here's the deal: the subsidies that come equally generously from both sides to placate and buy a base, those aren't changing, right? If Romney would have gotten in there, guess what? We're still doing bailouts of Wall Street. We're still doing special interest favors. If the Democrats stand there, guess what? We're still going to have social safety nets up until the point that it's time to pull the trigger and implement austerity. So, one of the reasons that we have this cattle-like mentality, this majority of the populace that absolutely could give a crap less what happens in D.C. or what happens with legislation. Most don't even know what National Defense Authorization Act 2012 is, or let alone, what's happening for their financial future. The reason we got to that point is because we've been able to disconnect governance from the people. And, so it's not a shock to me that we're seeing this attempt to completely get rid of Congress, right? It's just too many points of view, too many opinions. We'll get rid of it. We'll dumb it down. We'll go from 535 to 12, down to 1, down to we'll just, basically let them talk about social issues, and we'll handle all the big issues up there at the big White House or maybe over at the Treasury. But truth be told, all decisions will be gone through Bernanke first at the Federal Reserve. So, the nanny state on both sides, the red and the blue side, has been used masterfully to get a populace that is completely ignorant of how this process works, and more devastatingly, completely ignorant of where we're at and what we're about to be pushed into. There's not a question there. But
it's a heck of a statement.
And so, going off the fiscal cliff, yes, it's coming, regardless of if we do something with the debt ceiling or not.
Get your repellent gear.
Get your gear on. All right, we're gonna be back with Doug Owen, blacklistednews.com. And hey, we're going to have some fun for this last segment. We're going to just joke around. So blacklistednews.com, also founder of Oracle Broadcasting Network. We'll be back with more Wide Awake News Radio. Hang tight. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Charlie McGrath, your host. Doug, I almost said it again. Doug Owen of blacklistednews.com is our guest for this evening. Doug, tell me real quick again, when can I hear your program and where?
It's 5 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Oracle Broadcasting Radio Network. If you go to blacklistednews.com or blacklistedradio.com, we have buttons and streams and all sorts of stuff that you can click on. So it's directly before your show.
Right on. All right, we have a caller, Randallstein, who's been holding on the line for a minute. I apologize for that, Randallstein. Let me get you on real quick here because we have about 10 minutes left in this segment. Go ahead.
I hope I'm not changing the subject any, but I wanted to mention the CAFR accounts. The fiscal cliff and the budget is pretty much for public consumption, whereas the double books and the CAFR account is where the real money is. And when the Congress cries poverty and they say they need more money, well, why don't we look at the CAFR accounts? The federal government is one of the largest, or is the largest, landholders in the country, and with all the pensions and public pensions and so on, they're also one of the largest investors in this country. And so when the bailouts happen, well, it's pretty obvious why. They didn't want their accounts to go down, and so the bailouts were pretty much in their own interest. And so I'd like to hear Doug's view on the CAFR accounts and this facade of worrying about the fiscal cliff when, the same thing happened in Germany during Hitler, where they said Arbeit macht frei. Well, work didn't make free; it was just simply for public consumption under Hitler. So I'd like to hear your comment on the double booking.
Thanks, Randallstein. That's a great question. We have done programs on that before. We've had experts on the CFAR or CAFR.
It's the comprehensive annual financial reports. Yeah, and I'm not familiar with the federal government, honestly, having a CAFR. I know that most cities that are incorporated, townships, municipalities do have CAFRs, and really the comprehensive annual financial reports, known as CAFR, they are papers that are usually public. You can find them, though, very often not referenced at all or looked at when measuring the amount of money your city has. San Bernardino tried to keep their CAFR report unpublished because they're filing for bankruptcy, which is pretty unprecedented. And so in doing that, they would have to disclose even though there's really no legal precedence for this, but they would have to disclose that information about the investments that they have. But the state of Texas, I'll give you a microcosmic aspect. The state subsidized University of Texas has millions, if not billions of dollars in investments. And it's still a state entity. So it's invested, it's a public-private partnership. And so when somebody says, well, how much money does Texas have, or the state government or different agencies under different budgets, they don't look that deeply. But I don't think that selling the federal lands to people, and let's be honest about it, the average American people wouldn't be buying these lands. It would be China or some other investor that we have put tons of dollars into that would end up buying it. Looking at Ohio, I don't think that would be a great way to generate revenue either. The big problem that we have is interest that's being compounded and the lack of comprehension around the amount of control and monopoly money that the Federal Reserve creates. If we had actual competition with the federal with another organization besides the Federal Reserve, maybe a state bank, something that Montana is looking at, then we wouldn't have that monopoly. And I think that's a great way to also to execute debt. We saw that with greenbacks under Abraham Lincoln, and even silver certificates prior to those going out of style under JFK. Yes. So there's a lot of other, but yeah, they don't talk about the CAFRs and all of those investments, and they don't bring that to the table when talking about budgets. But here in Texas, they do talk about it. They call it by another name. They call it the rainy day fund.
And they don't put it on the books. So if you're running, they don't add that towards their towards any deficit that they might be running.
Right. Well, they kind of separate those accounts, and they say, well, this is the money that we have from these investments, whatever they may be, whether they're buying. I'll give you an example. The Texas retirement system, which does the state, and it's kind of like CalPERS in California. It's the state retirement system. They invested $200 million into the F1 track that they built in Austin, Texas. So you have this public-private investing that's happening. But are they going to show you all of the profit that they get from the F1 track? Are they going to count that in the budget? Probably not.
Yeah, absolutely not. Randallstein, great question. Thank you very much. I appreciate the call. All right, just a few minutes left, and we were joking around a little bit during the break, and I kind of want to. It's funny because you and I have known each other for a couple years now, and not only do we have the same haircut, which is virtually we're running slick up here, but we have a very similar point of view as far as the prep thing. We both do it compared to the average person listening, or to the average person in the country, and probably not to the average person listening, without a doubt. But I would say to the average person, we're highly prepped. But in this community, we're not, because I think the notion of being ready for the end of humanity and scraping out an existence for years and years and years, that notion is absolutely not appealing to me at all. And if we ended up in that kind of a scenario, man, brother, I just don't want to be here.
Yeah, if I'm putting atropine into my thigh, or having to flush my thyroid, I would rather not be here. Just saying. That kind of exposure to some kind of toxic element, or
right.
The end of days. I don't want to be part of the remnant, to be quite honest. I'm not worried about Nibiru to the point that I'm moving into the mountains trying to escape the tidal wave. If a tidal wave comes through and covers Texas, I'm out. I'm fine.
You're done. You're moving on. See what the next game's all about. And I'm with you on that. I want a return of a constitutional republic. I'm willing to wade through hell to get there. But if it's like you said, atropine. Because the atmosphere has been stripped away, and we're all exposed to chemicals or radiation or that kind of thing, and it's a Mad Max society, there's just no way. I just don't want to be involved in that. I want to be civilized again one day. I do believe there's really hard times coming, and I do believe that folks that prepare for several months of man-made or natural disaster have a certain leg up over, obviously a leg up over the average person. But my hope is certainly that there's a mass awakening when everybody's suffering to realize how we got here, and then people standing up to say, you know what, we're taking back freedom. We're going to give you back your tyranny, and we're going to go ahead and march along down that path of freedom. But if it isn't that, and it's like you said, Nibiru smacking in or causing floods over the entire northern hemisphere, well, you know what, I'll just enjoy the wave, enjoy the view as it's coming at me.
Well, there's a lot of people that think it's happening this month. A lot of dire predictions for 2012. It's almost over.
It is, Doug. Let's just you and me just stay on here for what, another 15 days or so, and we'll prove this thing right or wrong. I really do think, and I've been sitting on the program over the last couple of nights. I really do think we stand a great chance of having a major event between now and the end of the year. I think it certainly could be financial. There's predictions out there about a December 18th market collapse that could absolutely happen. That could happen tomorrow morning, or we could see this Syria chemical weapons thing be blown up into the beginning of World War III. I mean, there's certainly dire things that could happen in the next few weeks, without a doubt. But at the end of the world, what's your thoughts?
Oh, the world will keep on spinning with or without us. There's no doubt about that, Mr. McGrath. The question is, what will we be doing, and where will we be, and at the end of the month? And I don't know. I think that it seems almost too good to be true. It seems that it would just fit too perfectly the end of an era in a new age, and bringing it in with the blood ritual sacrifice. I mean, it's just too conspiracy perfect. But I talked to a guy today that has a prophecy, a biblical prophecy about Black Christmas, and under the guise of thermonuclear war. And so the rising of the Phoenix. And
wait a minute.
Yeah, he thinks it's going to happen in Phoenix, Arizona on December. I wrote it down here. I have it. On December 25th, Christmas morning, that we're going to have thermonuclear war.
Interesting.
And he has a lot of esoteric and numerological and Kabbalistic occult symbology that he uses as proof, or at least for making the case. It's really interesting, But
I love listening to predictions like that. I mean, it's always interesting to listen to it. Lindsey Williams, he's obviously in this community the quintessential inside guy, is giving these predictions. But normally what happens is you find out that most times predictions are going to make somebody look silly.
They don't live up to the hype. So many things out there do not.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're going to find out not too many days down the road.
Yeah. Well, sure.
Doug Owen, blacklistednews.com. You can go there every day and check it out, because I most certainly do. Great site. And I like it.
Guaranteed to December 25th, 2012. We don't know beyond that.
I don't think you should go past the 21st. In fact, if you listen to the Tibetan monk who predicts the 18th is going to be the beginning of sorrow, we're going to have weeks and weeks of no electricity, no power grid, then you might not want to guarantee it past the 18th. But hey, you know what?
December 17th, new guarantee.
40 million hits now? Is that what we're up to over there?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, I think it's 46, yeah.
That's sick, Doug. Doug Owen, blacklistednews.com. You can listen to him daily right before this program on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. Doug, thank you very much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlie. Have a great evening.
You too. Guys, hang tight. In about 8 minutes or so, we're going to bring Greg Manarino onto the program, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the fiscal cliff and what Greg is recommending to the folks that listen to him to do to protect themselves from upcoming financial devastation. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Hang tight.